Hey everybody, it's Peter Wiggin. Welcome back to another video. It's been a couple days. I took Friday off. Sorry about that. I want to upload 2 videos a day, Monday to Friday. That's my goal. Right now I'm only going at about 1 video a day, but I want to get up to speed. I want to get better at this. I want to be more consistent with this, and I want to get the news out to you in a timely manner. Hopefully I won't just upload both of my videos at 9 p.m. Mountain Date time either. Hopefully I can get them in earlier in the day so you can listen to whatever's going on while you're eating lunch or eating dinner, whatever you do throughout your day. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about something that's been blowing up on the internet over the course of the past couple days, a week and a half ago. As we all know very well, September 10th, Charlie Kirk, the political commentator, was shot through the neck at the Utah Valley University campus. The gunman Tyler Robinson has been apprehended. He's gone to court once, and they've charged him with 5 different things, including aggravated murder in the first degree, which in the state of Utah carries alongside it the possibility of the death penalty. That's what prosecutors seem to be pursuing, and that's what the public sentiment has been pushing forward as a reasonable response to the actions committed by this kid. So anyway, stemming from this have been a lot of issues. One of the main issues being, how did this happen? Were there any co-conspirators? There were a couple weird things whenever this news initially broke. First off, right after the first shot was fired, you saw a few people, one Jewish man in particular, celebrating in the crowd. You saw him chanting USA, USA almost. And everybody, they started harassing him on Twitter. They started calling him out. It was an abhorrent thing. Many people, especially Nick Fuentes, came out and said, if it's your first reaction when you see somebody shot in the neck and killed right in front of you, if your first reaction is to stand up and celebrate, you need to be destroyed. Not killed, but you need to be removed from polite society. That goes against all the tenets of Western civilization. And I agree. Alongside that, a man named George Zinn, an old man right after Charlie Kirk was shot, got up and distracted all of the law enforcement officers saying, "Shoot me now, shoot me now." They arrested and apprehended him, and eventually he was released. Following that, the FBI found child pornography on his phone, so he was arrested again. Good riddance. But also, seeing that, it seems almost unavoidable to talk about the fact that there could have been some conspiracy going on behind the scenes. How did George Zinn know to get up at that exact moment after the shot was fired and start distracting the law enforcement officers? Is that the initial instinct that you have whenever you see somebody die in front of you? Millions of years of evolution have made humans robust in their survival instinct to the point where when the rubber hits the road and the adrenaline starts pumping, you can get out of a dangerous situation. That's what we're built for. That's why heroic acts like people in the military encounter on frequent occasions are lauded as such. That's why they receive medals, because it goes against every instinct that we have to go into the line of fire and save somebody. That being said, this George Zinn character seemed to go straight into the line of fire to do something not noble at all. In fact, the opposite. Do something evil, do something despicable. That to me screams like there was some planning involved. Whether it was direct planning between Tyler Robinson, the shooter himself, and George Zinn, or there was a third party involved with both of them, it doesn't matter, but it's at least something that could be questioned. However, this initial impulse to wonder what's really going on behind the scenes, especially since the institution of media, the institution of academia, and the institution of intelligence, government intelligence, have been decayed and corroded over the course of the past 3 decades, 4 decades, it's become a well-built instinct to really question what's going on. Since COVID, I was in high school during the COVID pandemic. I was a sophomore in high school, a freshman in high school, and I lived through that. That was a very formative time for me because I realized I can't trust what the government says. I can't trust what the media says. I can't trust what these intelligence operatives are putting out. At least at face value, I need more evidence. And that developed that instinct in me to ask more questions. However, just like any other instinct, just like any other weapon, it can be abused, it can be used to an extent that it's useless. And that's what we're seeing here. Today we're talking about Candace Owens. Candace Owens has been popular among a faction of the right wing. This faction emerging from really the far right, the alt-right, the America First crowd, the people that have been criticizing Israel and its treatment of the Palestinians. This faction has fractured into 2 different subgroups. One that believes that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by an individual, that individual being evil, and that individual being Tyler Robinson. And then you have another group believing that there was some conspiracy going on, particularly that Israel was behind this conspiracy and wanted Charlie Kirk dead, because Charlie Kirk was beginning to espouse views that were sentimental towards the plight of the Palestinians. And that's just a surface level analysis of what's going on their side, or on that side of this right-wing faction. But nevertheless, you have people like Nick Fuentes saying, who is a staunch anti-Israel, and you could even say anti-Semitic individual, who is saying, yeah, there's no evidence, no connection to the fact that Israel was behind this assassination, even though there are some weird things going on, especially with Bill Ackman and his funding of the finder of the killer, which ended up being the father of the killer. And then you have people like Candace Owens that are saying, oh no, Israel was involved for sure. They were for sure involved. There was an unnamed, untrackable plane that left the Provo airport 12 minutes after the shooting. And if you look back, that was funded by the Chabad Lubavitch, which is a Utah, pretty much Jewish pack. And this has led to a big clash on the right and the left. One could call it infighting. And so, what is the main issue here? I would say there's a couple issues at hand. The first thing is, Candace is touting conspiracy theories that have no bearing in reality. I'm a conspiracy theorist, I would say. Ever since 7th grade, I was into stuff like the Illuminati, secret societies. Just for fun, I would look at, we would watch like Gravity Falls and we would see Bill Cipher. And we'd be like, whoa, that's an Illuminati reference. And it would be, an interesting little, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. And I've carried that sentiment of being able to ask questions and being able to look past the veil, past the curtain to what could be going on behind the scenes into my adult life, into my time at university, into my time engaging in modern politics. And I think like I said, it's a useful tool. It's an instinct that should be developed to some extent. You don't want to go around with every whim that is touted by the media or by other people on Twitter or your friends. You want to be able to be independent and questioning. However, something that you may often hear on the internet by people like Dave Smith and Daryl Cooper is take one red pill, not the whole bottle. So taking the red pill can come in two different forms. The first form being like a sunrise, where the sun gradually comes up over the horizon. After a long night, you see the glimpses of light on the horizon in the east, and slowly over time that sun will peak over the horizon and you will be greeted with a bright morning, and truth will distill upon your mind. That's one version of the red pill. Another is your brain breaks. A piece of information clicks into place, you realize Israel really is genociding Palestinians, and then you go down the rabbit hole. And what's happened over the course of the past year is a lot of people have encountered the latter version of the red pill, where they see a TikTok, they see a Hitler speech edit, or something like that, or a video of a kid dangling from its intestines on the Gaza Strip, or some IDF soldiers knocking over crates of watermelons and smashing them on the ground. They see something horrific like that, and their brain breaks. And suddenly they can't trust anything. Now, I'm lucky. I was red-pilled over the course of a couple years. Starting, I would say the impetus was really with COVID. And like I said, I kind of had that natural inclination to be questioning institutions and looking behind the scenes. But people like Candace Owens, they've recently come to the conclusion that Israel shouldn't be supported, that there are things going on behind the scenes that need to be revealed. There is truly a deep state. Our government is being controlled by people that are behind the scenes, whether that's Israel or not. It's obvious that Biden wasn't in control in the last year or the last couple years of his presidency. It was somebody else completely. It's obvious that Donald Trump isn't doing the things that he wants to do alone. There is manipulation. There's influence going on behind the scenes. Take one red pill. Don't take the whole bottle. She's taken the whole bottle. Ever since she got fired from Daily Wire in March of 2024, she's been taking pill after pill after pill, digging this ditch deeper and deeper and deeper. And at this point, she doesn't know when to look back up and start climbing out of that hole. She's stuck. And now I want to go into one of the most recent clips that has been floating across the internet. And this is her talking about the possibility that there could be trapdoors under the UVU stage in which Charlie Kirk was shot. And instead of looking above where the shooter could have been, or the shooter was, which video evidence shows such, we should be looking below. And everyone knows that Jews are found in the tunnels, right? They crawled out of the tunnels with strange mattresses with stains on them in New York a couple years ago. They must have been in the tunnels under Utah Valley University. I'll show you the clip right now.
There was a massive pipeline that was almost exactly behind where Charlie was sitting. Here's that maybe it's a water pipeline. I don't know, but there it is under the flag. And to your right, I went into my tips line and I saw that somebody had messaged me about this. More than one person messaged me about this. They're like, hey, yeah, there's like a whole underground thing there. And to your right, you're observing those two little boxes. And they told me that that was a trap door. Now, I'm not implying someone, popped up and shot Charlie, but that's a close up of that area. I'm just implying that there's an entire underground there. And I remember when I looked at the footage, I felt like it was coming up. I don't know anything about ballistics. I'm not an expert. But if there was a hatch door nearby, then we can assume, as we should always assume with colleges, obviously stadiums, there's always an underground path. So I'm wondering if the federal government has explored the possibility that somebody could have been under Charlie and done that. While everyone's looking around and thinking that a shot went off from here, if that was just maybe like decoy number 2, and actually Charlie was shot from beneath him, which then could maybe explain why there was no exit wound. Again, I'm theorizing because I have a right to. I have a right to think. And that is interesting to me. Where does it go? Where do the tunnels underneath UVU lead to, right? That's an interesting question. Maybe everyone's looking up when we should be looking below.
So like I said, one of the big reasons why Candace Owens is touting all these conspiracy theories is just because her brain is broken. She's been red-pilled beyond belief. She's dug a ditch so deep she can't climb out, or it will take her a long time to climb out and get back to her senses. She's floundering in the depths of a deep ocean of misinformation, just desperately trying to cling onto something that floats. And she's found stuff in the past that has helped her keep her head above water, and now every single thing that looks like a piece of wood she's grabbing onto, even if it ends up being a shark. How'd you like that analogy? You like that? Anyway, I also think there's a lot of psychological things going on. For example, she worked for Turning Point USA from 2017 to 2019. I don't know to what extent she was close with Charlie Kirk. There are many pictures of her with Charlie Kirk. They seem to be great friends. But another part of this is she could just be desperately looking for closure when there is none. This is something I haven't heard people talk about. When you have a friend die in front of you, when you don't just say Charlie Kirk was assassinated, but you say Charlie was assassinated, they killed Charlie. When that is you, you're desperately going to be looking for who committed this act, this treasonous act, this horrific act, this terroristic act that changed the nation. And when it comes out to be some 22-year-old kid, it doesn't register in your mind that that evil could come from somebody so unassuming. Unless you have to believe that there is something bigger going on. I think that's something that could be happening in her mind. And honestly, I don't blame her for it. I can't relate to that. I was shocked when Charlie Kirk was shot. For 2 days, I was in a haze. I'm living in and around the Provo, Utah, Orem area. And so I lived about 5 minutes away from UVU campus. And the entire town for 2 days was in shock. People were weary. People were depressed. I had mocked, I had ridiculed Charlie Kirk in the past, and yet still, I felt like my world had shattered. I knew a lot of people that were there. I called a bunch of people in tears, saying they saw him die right in front of them. The impact that had on me, I can't imagine how somebody was impacted that knew Charlie, that was friends with him, that worked with him. And going off of that, I think that she could be projecting. It could be out of fear of her own life that she's trying to call out whatever evil is out there, trying to root out the cause of Charlie Kirk's death. If it was a third party, if there was some shady institution involved in his killing, I think she wants to call it out and root it out for her safety. Even if it is a subliminal thing, even if it is a subconscious thing, I think that's a natural instinct. Like I was talking about earlier, we are robust creatures. We will do whatever it takes to survive. Like I said, I think it is an issue. I think what is happening, she's losing credibility in the eyes of the mainstream right. She has, 6.8 million Instagram followers and millions of followers on YouTube too. She has a diehard, devout fan base. And I think even then, there has been a fissure on the right. Over the course of the past year, you've seen fissure after fissure. You've seen cracks in the base of the right. Over and over, from the H-1B visa debate to the Iran controversy and bombing, to Charlie Kirk's death, to now. There have been visions of the right breaking up, and it seems to be coming into fruition. And I think Candace Owens is contributing heavily to it, substantially to this. And so that begs the question, what do we do going forward? Well, what we can do, and what I've seen a lot of people on the right wing doing as of recent, especially coming off of the back of Charlie Kirk's funeral memorial yesterday, we need to use Charlie Kirk's death as a springboard into eliminating the demonic leftist ideology at its root. The days after Charlie Kirk's death, people celebrated. People made TikToks dancing. People outed themselves as being truly demonic, as possessing the ideologies of the devil, completely disrespecting human life and everything that comes with it, the institution of the family, the idea of free speech that is a foundation to our country. And eventually this led to the right waking up. And within 3 days, the right had compiled a document, a list of about 60,000 people that had celebrated the events of Charlie Kirk's death and things surrounding it. And many thousands of people have gotten fired because of that. You had elementary school teachers, you had HR managers, you had salespeople. All of these people getting fired, getting written up to their bosses. Because the right finally decided to lock in and realize that their enemies have no morals, they have no values, and they will do whatever it takes to beat them down and put their knee on their neck. That eventually culminated in the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, which is said to come from pressure by the FCC through President Trump. Now, I listened to Tim Dillon's podcast the other day. I really like Tim Dillon. I think he's very clear on his analysis of what's going on around the world, except he sometimes misses the mark. And usually when he misses the mark, it's because of his background as a gay man. He grew up Catholic, but it's more of a cultural Catholic thing. I doubt if you asked him anything about Catholicism, he would know much. And maybe that's judgmental of me, but, if I look at your daily schedule and I can't see that you are a follower of Christ from the things that you do every day, then I think it's safe to say that you have things to work on at least. At least. He's also a practicing gay man and unapologetic about that. And he's a comedian. And comedians, they thrive on the idea of free speech. And that might be kind of fearful for him to see another comedian getting taken off of air, although he wasn't banned on everything. He just lost his initial job. He could still make a YouTube channel. Tim Dillon was like, this is scary, And you had Ben Shapiro saying that as well, saying, what if the left uses this cancel culture against us? Well, that's the thing they already have. People have already lost their jobs. People have already lost their livelihoods. People have already been cast out. Gavin McInnes was just brought back on Twitter after a 7-year ban. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, after he finished his first term, was banned off of Twitter. Those things happened. And now the right realizes that actually, free speech, the basis of free speech was that we shared some axiomatic views of how things worked. There are certain things that we all agree on. The idea of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, property, basic tenets of life that have been established into Western civilization by the tenets inherent in Christianity. Those things need to be protected. And now those axiomatic or seemingly axiomatic takes don't align with the right and the left. And the right realizes if they want to continue on in righteousness in a free country, they need to defend themselves, whatever force that takes. And I agree. If you're right, you need to defend your liberties. And being a Christian, I understand that God is real, Jesus Christ is our Savior, and I'm unapologetic about that, no matter what form that takes. And so use this opportunity to bolster your faith. Also, be open to new information and learn to take a step out of this, Learn to question everything. That doesn't mean that you come to the conclusion that Israel is behind everything. It means question everything. If information does come out connecting the murder of Charlie Kirk and connecting Tyler Robinson or George Zinn to Israel, if there is a direct connection, I'll change my mind. You should too. Be open to new information. And this is one of the key differences between high IQ and low IQ individuals. It's the idea of abstraction, being able to think in hypotheticals. That's why the question, if you didn't eat anything for breakfast this morning, how would you feel, is so popular. Because somebody that isn't able to abstract, isn't able to think in hypotheticals will be confused. They'll be like, but I did eat breakfast this morning. What do you mean I did eat breakfast this morning? But somebody that's smart, they understand that, yeah, If I didn't eat breakfast this morning, I would have been hungry. That's just a basic level of abstraction. And the smarter you get, the more you can abstract. You can abstract in theoretical and hypothetical situations that have no bearing on reality, and that's fine. You should be able to question things. You should be able to entertain ideas. You should be able to create scenarios in your mind and logically deduce that they're correct or incorrect. That's how you think. And so be open to new information. If things change, I'll let you know. I'll be the first to update you on the situation. I made a kind of different video today. Usually I have more organized scripts. Today I was just kind of ranting. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think I went too far off track, or if you like listening to the sound of my voice and some of the whack ideas that come out of my mouth, let me know that too. I'd like to hear feedback. If you leave a comment, I'll definitely hear you because I have 10 followers. I love my 10 followers so much. If you email me, I don't know, if you message me on Twitter, at Peter N. Wiggin, I'll Venmo you like $5 or something. We can have a little party. Anyway, I'll bet you some Taco Bell. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one. And peace out.